Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to show you how to bind your visual journal. You should by this point already have your cover done with watercolor, and I've also done some little designs on this, so whatever you want to do for your cover you can have that done. I'm also going to have some different kinds of paper. I have a combination of regular paper from like printer paper, so it's kind of thinner. And I also have our thick watercolor paper. You'll also notice that your watercolor paper for your cover is slightly larger than the paper that we're putting inside. That's a good thing. Alright, so first thing that you have to do is you're going to flip your cover over and fold it. So because our papers are two different sizes, you want to fold them at different times because your cover is going to be slightly larger. So in order to make sure that it's nice and even, you can do that one first. Then what we're going to do is take all your pages and make sure they're all kind of lined up together. And then you're just going to fold them all together. So all of these, and I'm going to press down really hard. And if you want to, sometimes what I do is, because I just can't, I have no fingernails and it's hard for me to press down, I use a pair of scissors and I use this edge and I press down just to make sure that crease is really nice and tight and keeping all of that together. So next, once I have my crease, I can put this in here. And what you'll see is that it will line up kind of perfectly in the middle, but you'll have a little bit of a border around because, again, the paper is slightly larger. Okay, so once that paper is kind of all nice and lined up exactly how you want it to be, and trust me, you want to try and make this as exact as you possibly can because it's going to be your journal for the rest of the semester, so you want it to be good. Next, I'm going to take a binder clip. I'm going to put one binder clip on this side right here. Okay, and close it. And then one binder clip goes on the opposite side. Okay, that way your paper is kind of being smushed in the middle and it won't go anywhere. Okay, now on this crease in the middle, this is where we got to do a little bit of math. Okay, so you're going to take your ruler, make sure that you are looking on the inches side and not the centimeter side. Okay, I'm going to line up my ruler, and I might need to move my clip just a tiny bit. So you're going to line up your ruler, and your book should be about 9 inches. So I'm just going to line that up, and once I have my ruler kind of lined up here up to 9 inches, I shouldn't have to move it at all. So I'm going to go ahead and take my pencil, and I'm going to mark one little dot here right in the crease at 4.5, because that is the middle, because 4.5 is half of 9. And then I'm going to go 1 inch from the top, so I'm going to mark a little dot at 8, and then 1 inch from the bottom, so at 1. And I should kind of have, just 3 small dots. Okay, I don't know if you can see that. Next, I'm going to take a tack. Okay, so we can't use a needle quite yet to start sewing because it's harder to poke a needle into here because it might jab you in the finger, so that's why we use a tack. And I'm going to go ahead and poke my tack right through all the way, being careful that I'm not going to poke my fingers out of the back side. Okay, and you're going to have to use your muscles for this, your finger muscles, so I hope you stretch them. And you're just going to go through all the way. And you might have to twist it a little. That's usually what I do. Alright, and now I should have 3 holes poking out the back. I try and make sure that you get those holes right on the center line, because then you want your holes to come out right in the center. Okay. Next, I can actually start sewing my book together. So I'm going to start with some embroidery floss, and you don't need too much, but it's always good to have a little bit more than not enough. So I'm going to cut some off. Then I can thread my needle. So I'm going to get one of these embroidery needles, okay, which I have out for you guys. And this is the way I think is the easiest way to thread your needle. So I will pinch my thread super duper duper close to my fingers. Then I'm actually going to put my needle on top of the thread, and I find that that way is a lot easier than trying to shove the thread through the needle. So think about it the opposite way. So I'm going to take that, I'm pinching it really almost so you can't even see it. I'm going to put my needle on top, and I kind of roll my fingers and it goes straight through. Okay, and obviously if you need help with this, you can always get someone to help you, or I can help you while you're working. All right, now for the actual binding part, we're going to go through the center hole first. So center hole, I'm starting in the middle, not on the outside, but on the inside of the book. So I'm going to carefully get my needle through there, and this part is really important that you want to keep these on here because it's holding all those things in place. If your pages start to get unaligned, then it's going to be really tricky to do this part. If you do it right, then it should be pretty easy. Right? So I'm going to leave about this much string coming out of the middle, and if you need to get a piece of tape, you can get a small piece of tape of like the masking tape. That works pretty well, really any tape. But I just put a tiny piece there to hold that on so while I'm sewing, I don't accidentally pull it all the way out of my book. So I've got it going through the center, now it's coming out the back. So I can flip my book over. Now I can go into either one of these holes, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna go down, back through into the middle. So I'm going to push it back through so that it comes out through the center. And all the way, and pull it all the way so that it's tight across the back. Next, I'm gonna actually not go through the middle, but I'm gonna skip all the way to the back or the top hole up here. Poke my thread needle through all the way out to the back. And I want to pull it so that it's going all the way across straight. In bookbinding, you want to make sure that your string is nice and tight so that it's holding all your pages together. If it's too loose, then your pages are just going to kind of flop around, and you don't want that. All right, so I have my guitar string. Now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go back through the center hole one more time so that I have a fully bound spine of my book. Okay. So I'm going to pull it through. My spine is fully bound. Okay, now I've got, this actually worked out perfectly. I have one side of my string going on the left side of the book and one side of my string going to the right side. So I can actually go ahead and cut right here. Okay, so I've got a little bit of leftover string. That can probably just go in the garbage if it's not quite enough. If you have a lot left, then you can save it and put it back in the bin. Your needle goes straight back into the box that you got it from. Okay, and then we can untape carefully so we're not ripping our paper. And now you've got this long guitar string that we want to kind of tie back together. So we're going to take the two sides and I kind of pull it just to make sure it's extra tight. Then I always do a double square knot. So just a regular knot, just like that. So 2 times, and then I will cut it off like this, about that much left, because if it's too short, if I cut it too close, then it's gonna fall apart. So I just kind of smooth these down. And I can take off my clips because my book's all bound together. And then I'll fold it and you should be done. You should have your book. All right, and that's how you're binding all your books.